Alrighty, Stokastic, here we go. We are live, just doing a little Sunday fun day NBA action here. We have an interesting slate: 4-gamer on FanDuel, 5-gamer on DraftKings. FanDuel, because they never look ahead, they didn't realize that there was a makeup game today with the Charlotte Hornets and Los Angeles Clippers. So they just took the standard schedule feed and didn't add it, Matt. So shocker of shockers, they kept the late game, but missed one of the middle games. Very sad.
That's bizarre. That's bizarre.
It's not the end of the world, fortunately, because there's not a lot of plays coming from that game. But we'll get to that. We'll get to everything here because it's Sunday. We have time, a nice leisurely stroll through our games here. But we want to thank everybody for coming on in. How did your night go last night, Matt? Let's see. Cade Cunningham got tossed. That wasn't good. Russell Westbrook did pretty well. Of course, Jokic did even better because they had to play the whole game and the Wizards somehow won. And then Ja Morant was out. So we were a nail in a world full of hammers on our calls last night.
Yeah. I mean, not really. I mean, I said at least I loved Westbrook, and that
I think Westbrook was a good play still, even though he was kind of average. He got the minutes.
He got to like 40-some fantasy points.
Yeah, I would have on the secret site Yahoo. I would have done 220%. That was where I was with about 4 minutes to go in that game. And if by plan Jokic would have been out, it would have been Westbrook and Champagne in there leading me to the promised land. Instead, I won 8%. Very sad. Lost about half on FanDuel, but made up for it on Pick'ems. So life goes on. Life goes on. Let's see here. Why is why are texts just blowing up here? Good God. It's like people are in just they nothing all day. And then all of a sudden they know I'm busy doing something. So shame. All right, well, let's get rolling here. We've got some news that just dropped, so let me make sure there's not any more because it's going to impact some of our earlier games. So let's get started here, Matt. I've got the run sheet telling me that it is the Toronto Raptors at the Portland Trail Blazers. That are one of the two games tipping off at lock. We've got the Blazers home court favorites by about half a dozen points, 228 implied total here. Toronto is going to be without Dick, Quickly, and Roden. Also Barrett. He just got ruled out with an illness. Active is Jonathan Mobo. He has missed the last 5 games with a nasal fracture. And then Akbaji is available after missing the last 7 games with a sore ankle. Castleton is on a second 10-day contract. They added that today. So it ends up being, another way to hate on Chris Boucher. Portland is going to be without Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant. No surprises there. Jabari Walker's in the concussion protocol. And we're waiting on Anthony Simons. He injured his right hand, so he is questionable. The last time he missed a game was back in January. So true game time decision. They're gonna. Oh, he is in. Okay.
Yeah, he's in.
Well, there it is. That news also just dropped. What are we looking at? Oh, 9 minutes ago. All right. Well, my bad. I had to make the run sheet. I had to get all these tabs up. Couldn't do everything. But that takes us through the first game here. Pop quiz, Matt. Who do you think is going to be the Toronto Raptors who play more than 25 and a half minutes today?
That is a true toss-up. I don't know, and that's why I don't think that much from Toronto is that appealing here. AJ Lawson looks really good per the tools. I think the majority of plays that you want from this game come from the Portland side, though. But talking about Toronto first, I mentioned Lawson. They've got a ton of guys out. If Barnes were out, these Toronto scrubs would look even better, but Barnes isn't playing huge minutes. Lawson, 4,700, looks like a rock solid play. Jamison Battle projects for 25 fantasy points at 4,400. He's a look. I think you can take shots on Jamal Shed. He projects well. You never know the minutes, as we saw the other night. I don't love the Toronto side, but they're thin enough that I think you at least want to keep them in your pool if you're multi-entering, and if you're playing like 1 to 3 lineups, I think you're probably just looking at like Lawson, maybe Battle. From the Portland side, though, Avdia looks like the top play on the slate. Ownership is there, but he's still projected per our tools to be under-owned. So he looks elite. Klingon looks really, really good. I think those two guys are staples and building blocks in all formats. Scoot Henderson, even with Simons in, looks really good. Great matchup. Those three guys for me, Scoot, Klingon, and Avdia, are three cogs in my machine this evening.
All right, that sounds good. The other magic word I heard you say is DFS or building blocks. I'm going to add DFS in front of that, building blocks, because that is the free article that is available almost every day on Stokastic. Let's drop that link in there. You guys can check out the wager of the day. You can find the deals of the day in there as well. We'll talk about a few of those on the show, but it is a one-stop shop to get your various links and learn a little something every day about the MLB. And we are definitely, or NBA, and for MLB, we are bringing back the Spotlight Pitchers and Top Stacks article. So good times ahead on that front. All right. So looking at the minutes here. So I've got the Data Hub showing. So let's take a quick look at Toronto and just see what the data team is viewing here. They have Jamison Battle for 32 minutes. I think that's reasonable if he's in the starting lineup. They have AJ Lawson for 31. I think that's reasonable, regardless of if he is starting or not. Jamal Shed is, one of the guys that kind of rugged everybody on the 2 games ago. He played just 12 minutes. He played only in the first half, never came back. And that upset the apple cart for a lot of things. Toronto still won that game. Toronto's won 6 of their last 7 games. So tanking is not their forte at the moment, but they're in asset management here. It's like they are the kid who finds the undated note from their parents saying, please excuse, Johnny, he's sick, because that they've had RJ Barrett missed twice in the last 10 days with illness. It's like, can you invent something? Just call it hangnail, something, just something, please. But hey, at least we know he's out. If we look, both Toronto and Portland own their own first round picks, which of course is kind of important here. Toronto has about let's see, where are my notes here? Sorry, I should have had those up before. So Toronto has kind of a 4-game cushion, if you will. I don't think they're really going to be improving their lot that much. So that's why I've been calling it, asset protection, because they're not fully tanking, because they really can't get that many more lottery balls. You've got, let's see here. They have 4 games ahead of Portland, Chicago, and San Antonio. So I don't think they're going to be able to sink their way below those teams. Portland, on the other hand, they've more or less been trying, but they also have their own pick. But they're looking at a lottery shot here. We want to point out Denny Abdia. So the interesting thing about Abdia is when he plays, and he's only played in 5 of the last 8 games, again, asset protection. He did actually have an injury for 2 of those. But in his last 3 appearances, he has logged over 40 minutes, including the last 2, in 3 of his last 5. So in the 5-game stretch, he's averaging almost 36 minutes, 14 field goals, hitting about half of them. That was always the knock against him in Washington, or the one thing. He takes good shots, but he defers all the time. So what was it? 5 games ago for him, we saw him get a 30-point triple-double. He has it in his bag. He just doesn't take enough field goal attempts here. But he's kind of a do-everything player here. So wasn't that against your Cleveland Cavs? That
I think it was, yeah,
double?
Yeah, it was in overtime.
Yeah, so he, I think, is your core building block of the day. Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, they're all fine. You mentioned Klingon, they're all fine. These guys are at least a little more trustworthy than the Toronto options. Toronto can be sprinkled in But if you were hand building as we wrap up this game, Matt, and I'm assuming you are you playing anybody from Toronto?
Yeah, AJ Lawson looks really good. So he's the guy from Toronto for me. And then I like about 4 or 5 guys from Portland.
Okay. If we look at in just the declining minutes, so Scotty Barnes has played 27, 25, and 24 minutes in the last 3 games. RJ Barrett, he's out tonight, and he's missed the second time he's missed games with an illness. But he's gone from 28 to 27 to 25 minutes. We point this out because when I made the joke of who's going to play more than 25 minutes, I don't know. It's a tough ask. So that's kind of where we are on this game here. If you're playing 150, I think you're fine getting to. I wouldn't want more than 10% of anybody, except maybe Battle if he's in the starting lineup, but a sprinkle of the other guys if they come in. But with Agbaji back, etc., they're still a little. They've got plenty of players. All righty, let's move on to our next game here. Atlanta at Brooklyn. Brooklyn 6.5-point underdogs, 228 projected total here. I'm sure there's been updates since I did the run sheet, but we are without Clint Capella and Karis LeVert for Atlanta. On the Brooklyn side, there is no Clowney and no Russell. Take us through Atlanta here. What is your read on this one? Brooklyn still has a decent defense despite playing a cast of thousands here. A cast of perfectly average 6 to 8 men on the on any NBA rotation, on a playoff team rotation. That's their whole team. Deep, but not great.
So with that being said, with that in mind, I should say, not much looks great from Atlanta. Okongwu looks good at 7K, not special. Dyson Daniels, same thing. I don't think there's any priorities from Atlanta here. And we see this a lot in NBA DFS where ownership and the quote-unquote good plays are concentrated. I don't think the Atlanta guys are bad plays, but they just don't stand out, price considered, on this particular slate, in my eyes at least.
All right, let's take a quick peek over here at FanDuel since they do have one less game than DraftKings because they did not add in the makeup game. That was from the Los Angeles Wildfires. Let's see if they like anybody from Atlanta. Getting a little bit, Trae Young 20%, Okongwu 20%, Daniels 16%, Zach Risachet about 10%. So nothing overly exciting on that one. Looking at the Brooklyn side, let's see, Cam Thomas out for the year, tweaked his hamstring in the last game. That is unfortunate, but that does mean the likes of Keon Johnson, Trendon Watford, Cameron Johnson, Nick Claxton, a lot of guys I feel a little more comfortable with than the Toronto options here. What do you like from Brooklyn?
So I think Brooklyn does look better than Atlanta. I don't love them here because there's other spots I like more, but I do like them. Cameron Johnson, he's a solid building block type cog in the machine, if you will. I think he'd be my favorite piece. Tyrese Martin projects well. I like AJ Lawson more, basically the same price, so I'm going to go there, but I think that they're both wildly in play. Day'Ron Sharp looks good, and then I skipped the best for last intentionally. Nick Claxton looks really, really good here. He's too cheap, 5,500. Good spot against Atlanta. You know, he's coming off the monster game. You don't expect that, but this is another good spot. He's far too cheap. He looks really good. And I think if you're not playing him, you probably want to look at Day'Ron Sharp, who also is in a good spot, clearly, because he's in the same spot as Claxton and is also very productive from a fantasy perspective. So Day'Ron Sharp, Nick Claxton, Tyrese Martin, Cam Johnson, sprinkle in some Keon Johnson maybe. Brooklyn looks good here.
They might look a little bit better because we just had an update here. Zaire Williams questionable with the sore left Achilles. So we'll see how that transpires. We are 45 minutes away from tip-off for this game, so we'll have plenty of time for the news to trickle in, for the projections to update, all that good stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to drop a little link here into chat because we've got some fun here. We've got the find too many windows. Let's find chat here. We have the portfolio EV deal available for you guys. So similar to our link join opportunity, you guys can get in with portfolio EV by signing up with one of our 13 partners that is going to appear on that link I just dropped into chat. But everybody gets a one-time deal of 7 free days of portfolio EV. That is the Stokastic powered OddsShopper melded tool here. The portfolio EV pits all the books against each other and shows you the best values that are available. So this is something that's really cool. So let me drop in this just so you guys can see it, because I think it's fun. And then we'll get back to DFS. Look, we've already gone through half of the slate on FanDuel, and we've gone through 40% on DraftKings here. So deep breaths. So what you can see here is on the screen is these are ever-changing wagers. We got this one that just dropped, Dyson Daniels under 2.5 steals plus 120. You can look and see where all the different books are. You can see that DraftKings is at minus 125. So that difference between that's a 45 or 4.5% there, but that's 45 basis points there. That is how we look and see, hey, if these other books are down here and we've got a sharp one here or a good one, a wager here, the math is telling us that this is like a mini arbitrage. It's not a direct one for, and look at that, that just disappeared because it was that good. It got popped. So you can see here right now, Hard Rock showing a bunch of good ones, but you want to always look at different things here, but you can come in and look at where things are. You can look at the graphs. You can compare the books against each other. Like if I wanted to look at Hard Rock and see how it was going against Caesars there, you can see that Caesars hasn't offered that bet for very long. We can look at ESPN, see where that pops up, but these are ever-changing wagers. So check that out. That is the portfolio EV. All right. We're going to get time for plenty of questions. I see a couple super chats have come in. Not to fear, we will get those as well. Game number 3, Matt. This is kind of a fun one. There's more to talk about here. So we have the Utah Jazz at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now the Jazz, similar to Toronto, good luck seeing who's going to play minutes there. But you have the T-Wolves as 14-point home favorites, a pretty lofty total. Here, let me make sure I got that correct. I said it was 230. Oh, wow, it is 234. It's ticked up since I put that on my run sheet. But we are without Jordan Clarkson and Keontae George for Utah. On the Minnesota side, they will be without Mike Conley. And then up in the air, Jaden Springer. I don't think he's going to play. He has missed 5 of the last 6 games with a sore back. He is listed as doubtful. And then KJ Martin is questionable with a sore elbow. He has not missed a game in the last 2 weeks. Who has missed games here is Walker Kessler, who was active, not in the starting lineup, and didn't leave the bench in the last game. In that game, Lauri Markkanen played 17, 18 minutes, whatever it was, and then he didn't play in the second half. This was on the heels of Utah getting a $100,000 fine, which $100,000, a lot to me and you, not so much to an NBA franchise, for just resting Markkanen unabashedly here. So what I did do this morning is I took the under on his 17.5 points because I thought, hey, I don't know how much he's going to play. Now, I'd like to think he's going to play in the second half a little bit today, but who knows? But that was the only way I wanted to take a chance on Markkanen. I don't want him at all in my DFS lineups. I don't think we'll get too much of him. But what is your take on Utah? Because there are some plays here. It's a tougher matchup, but someone's going to get some of these minutes, right? Question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You said it at the outset. It's just like Toronto. Like a couple guys are probably going to get there, but it's really hard deciphering between them right now with these bottom teams that have incentive to lose. I don't love anything from you. It's hard to love anything from Utah. I mean, they're not in a good spot against Minnesota. Isaiah Collier looks like a fine play, with Keontae George out, but I don't really think I want to do much with Utah after that. They look like one of the worst teams on the slate, all things considered. Minnesota looks quite a bit better. Gobert, DiVincenzo, both projecting really well for their salaries. Anthony Edwards, obviously always a strong play. Julius Randle, he looks good. I can get on board much easier with the Minnesota side than the I forgot who they're playing for a second. Then the
Utah Jazz.
Brain fart. Then the Utah side for sure. Minnesota's just in a much better spot, and there's more clarity in their roster.
So if we let's look at Utah minutes here. So Collier's for 30. Okay, that makes sense. Young player, they're sort of developing him. Walker Kessler, 28. We're assuming he starts. If he doesn't start, I mean, hell, he could be another DNP again. If he doesn't start, then you start looking, maybe you feel a little bit better about Kyle Filipowski. But again, we're projecting him for 25 minutes. They have players. It's not like they're running out of players. They're just choosing to, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players with 22 or more minutes. And then Svi Mikhailiuk lurking with 16. They've got the players. It's scary to think about it. But aside from Collier, and that's where the field's at as well, right? We're projecting him for 18% on FanDuel. And by the way, that's with one fewer game than DraftKings. If we flip over to DraftKings, you'll see that it's pretty similar. He's at 14%, nobody even cracking 5%. So that makes it very dicey. But it's one of those, Matt, where I don't know that anybody gets enough minutes to really be a difference maker on this. And so now we're looking at understudies, not even backups, understudies needing to get there on efficiency in 23 minutes. Just no bueno. No bueno.
Yeah, I think I'm more with you than against you there. No doubt about it.
All right. We'll share the screen here for Minnesota with everyone. You can see DK, you got about 40% there for Edwards, DiVincenzo 33, Walker 26, Randall 22. Those are kind of the main guys you want. Throw in Gobert. I actually like Jaden McDaniels. I think he was someone that on the pick'em sites, I did take the over 2.5 combined blocks and steals. I was playing Prize Picks, Underdog, and Drafters. Drafters just it doesn't give you the option of fantasy points. But one thing I have noticed, a lot of the guys that can kind of get there with blocks and steals, Underdog and Prize Picks don't put their fantasy points out there. They make you take either PRA or separately go after their defensive stats. But that's something I kind of like to look at there. You can sometimes players like Miles McBride, he usually still gets fantasy points, but players like Jose Alvarado, Jaden McDaniel, etc., players of that ilk, a lot of times they just won't give you that choice. So things to think about there. For those of you that aren't in a legal sports wagering state, the OddsShopper tools do support the pick'em sites. Key things you want to know about the pick'em sites, why I mentioned Drafters. If you do a 3-pick, you get 6 times your payout. The other sites only give you 5 variable payouts on Underdog. You can tweak it a little bit, but usually it's 5. So you'd prefer on Underdog and Prize Picks to do 2 leg parlays, which basically is a 3x. That's your safer option if you don't have the individual sports wagering available to you. Otherwise, you want to go 4 or 5 legs because of the way the ROI works out. You don't get those as frequently, but the payout is much better. So there is, variable VIG or variable handle within how each of these pick'em sites handles their whole, does their wagering there. I walked into that one myself. I stepped on a rake right there, Matt. It was funny. I got to see myself in live time.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Chat's going to say, yeah, and EMAC's not the best of you. So there you go. Let's see. God, we have 35 minutes left. Let's go to the game that is not on FanDuel. This is the Charlotte Hornets at the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers favored by almost 14. Charlotte has pretty much everybody available as expected. They did send Slane, and Simpson to the G League, so they're not in the picture here. The Clippers are without Chris Dunn. This will be his first game he's missed. He has knee soreness, and then there's a chance they get Norman Powell back today.
He's starting.
Okay, he is starting. So Powell has missed the last 7 games with that hamstring injury and 12 of the last 13. Him coming in sort of puts a damper on everybody else. I'll refresh this and we'll see what we have for his minutes, because that has me curious. LAC. So we have him for 26 minutes. So makes him not particularly playable. So even though we can rail on FanDuel for not having this game in the player pool, I see chat asking, someone asking, why isn't it there? This was one of the makeup games that was postponed for the wildfires that were in Southern California. So they're making it up today. DK added it in manually because it's a makeup game. It doesn't come in on the regular feeds of the schedules. So FanDuel doesn't like to look ahead and check double check those things, so it's not there on their site. But we can see we're getting not barely 20% combined Matt ownership here on the Clippers, with Leonard, Zubac, and Harden each around 5%. That is not a lot. If we turn to Charlotte, I bet we're not even getting that. Charlotte has less than 10% as a team. So despite having a 20% larger player pool today, this game is hardly going to be represented in tournaments. Now, so you're saying, okay, is there anything that we can find in this? Well, the Clippers have one of the better defenses in the league. That's going to be tough for Charlotte. Charlotte's happily losing games because, again, they are tanking. And it just gets a little tricky. Mark Williams would probably be the one, like if I was looking at a player for DraftKings, he would be the guy I would want. But there are quite a few center options that are still better, that have more minutes upside on their ceiling. And then Zubac would be another guy I'd be interested in. But if the Clippers are really up by 15 at the end of the third quarter or midway through the third, how much are those starters going to play? Probably not a lot. So this one is fraught with peril. Any other read on it? Yeah.
Nah, always tough spot too for a team like Charlotte going into LA, long weekend. I don't like this spot at all for them. I think the Clippers handle business here relatively easily. I think the Hornets struggle. There are good enough players in this game where if, the game happens to take the other approach and it's just really good and high scoring, players could get there, but they're all expensive. So hard to choose between them. The Clippers side, Norman Powell's back. The Hornets side, the guys you want are really expensive for this spot. So mostly a pass for me. I'm with you.
All right. Looks like we just got some projections that came through here. Let's turn our attention to the final game of the night, the late night hammer, if you will. This one has a lot that we can sort of talk about here. We have two teams on a back-to-back here. You had OKC played last night, got their victory in Detroit. You had Gilgeous-Alexander play 38 minutes. Cason Wallace played 36. Kenrich Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein had 31, and Dort had 27. Remember, Dort got hurt last night, hurt his hip, so that cut his minutes short. In turn, you had Isaiah Joe get 33 off the bench. Let's see. I don't think we have an update yet on Wiggins. So we know that Jalen Williams is going to miss his third game. Good Jalen Williams with the hip. Dort out with the hip as well. Ousmane Dame, I bring that up. He is unlikely to play. I think he has been ruled out with a calf issue. He's playing 5 to 8 minutes a game, but that's just one less player that's there. And then Wiggins missed last night with an illness. We don't know his status yet for today, but we do have Chet Holmgren back in. So he got the night off yesterday, and he has been, getting his minutes ramped up, and he is someone that continues to improve because he missed that whole first year. So getting up to speed in real NBA action has been fun. Watching that happen with him. Let me see. In his last 4 starts, he has averaged 20, almost 30 minutes, 14 points, almost 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 stocks. 2.5 of those are blocks. So he still looks like one of the better plays. He was under leveraged. I will pull up the Boom Bust tool and see where he stands there. But he, along with Denny Avdia, are my 2 favorite plays tonight. Where do you stand on Chet Holmgren?
I like Chet, but he's not the priority for me that he is for you. I think there are just plays that I like more. It's not anything against Chet himself. It's just for me, not necessarily a price point I'm getting to all that often. Zaire Williams is out. Right now, like he looks like a good play in the tool. It's nothing special. You've been right on a bunch of these calls though, so not going to be surprised if Chet balls here, but he projects for 36 fantasy points, solid at 7,500, but nothing where I'm like, I need him. Now, maybe that's too low because he didn't play last night. OKC is going to be short on bodies. I get that. Just not where I'm going. From the OKC side for me, there's one guy that's like an absolute must play for me, and that's Cason Wallace. I talked about him a little bit last night. Was mad he was in the early game because I didn't want too much exposure. My best lineup had Cason Wallace. He's just way, way too cheap. With Jalen Williams out, even if Jalen Williams were in, plays huge minutes, does a lot. Obviously, this is the game he's going to bust now that I talked him up so much, but Cason Wallace looks like a priority for me at 4,100. I like Shea. He's really expensive. Just like last night, I like Giannis slightly more. And I like Chet if you can get there, but I'm not sure I'll be able to personally because I like the Portland guys more than Chet. It's not a price point I'm getting to. It's not even that I like someone around him more. I just don't know if I'm going to be rostering anyone in the 7K range because outside of Avdia, who's a little bit under that, just because of how my lineup construction is tonight.
And that's fair. His popularity, Chet's popularity, has been cut in half since the very first run this morning. So I'm liking him a fair amount here. I'm willing to plant the flag. I did that with Westbrook yesterday. Adequate results. Unfortunately,
I'm going to play one Chet now.
Okay. Do I have that kind of sway with you now?
Well, he looks good, and I'm just thinking about talking about it. And like, he is like the one guy that didn't play last night that's going to be in. They're already short on bodies. Like, I think that you could see a bunch of him and Hartenstein out there together tonight. So I already like Giannis a lot. Running it back with Chet makes sense. One guy I do want to like circle back on that we didn't even talk about at all that I do like in tournaments that is going to be unowned is Orlando Robinson.
Okay.
I know that Podol's in, but man, these Toronto starters don't play big minutes. Orlando Robinson does recently, and he's been uber productive. He's the one, he's played 32 and 34 minutes the past 2 games. He's been really productive from a fantasy perspective. I don't want to like lock him in. I like Klingon a lot more. I like Claxton more, but I think he's a really intriguing tournament play.
All right. Let me just show. Some folks were asking, and I'm going to drop this in chat. This is free. This is the Stokastic starting lineups page or projected starting lineups page. When we have things confirmed, it turns green. When we do not have them confirmed, it is not green. But you can see players who are questionable there in yellow. So people were asking about who's going to play for Zaire Williams. We don't know for sure, but you can see the projections team has put some notes in there saying that, Keon Johnson, Tyrese Martin should get some more minutes there. Keon Johnson should get the usage, etc. So you can kind of look at and see what we've got there. That's the only real news we have until we get to the last game, which of course we're talking about now. The Aaron Wiggins being questionable with the illness, and then let's turn our attention to the Bucks here. We've got Kyle Kuzma, who popped up today as questionable on the injury report as well. So this was a back-to-back for the Bucks. Kuzma played 32 minutes last night. Lopez played 33. Giannis and Prince played 35. And then Lillard played 37. In addition to Kuzma being questionable, Jericho Sims is as well. He hurt his thumb last night. So that's the missing pieces we have there. What are you liking here from the Bucks, and why?
It's Giannis. It's Giannis for me. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's a great matchup for Giannis, but he's just the top spend up option on this slate, in my opinion. He's starting to get better at each and every game. He's rounding into form. Big game tonight, obviously, late night hammer. Giannis is by far my favorite piece of Milwaukee. Outside of that, I don't think there's really much to like. We just got Jalen Wilson in the net starting lineup also.
Yep. So Jaden Springer ruled out or confirmed out for Utah. Also Zaire Williams confirmed out. So it's going to be for the Nets, Keon Johnson, Tyrese Martin, Cam Johnson, Jalen Wilson, and Nick Claxton. For Atlanta, it is, as expected, you've got Young, Dyson Daniels, Risa Shea, Muhammad Gay, and then Okongwu. So those are your two of the four starting lineups for the games that are tipping off in 23 minutes here. Let's do a quick peek over at FanDuel and see how things are shaping up there for Milwaukee. Wow, Giannis jumps up to 42% on FanDuel. That is pretty impressive. Oh, only power forward eligibility. I thought he had dual eligibility. I mean, it makes sense because of Lopez being the true center there. So there was a good article. I think it dropped on the 14th or 15th on ESPN that was talking about Kyle Kuzma and what the expectations were for him in Milwaukee. And they want him to kind of be the jack of all trades. So it was kind of interesting reading. They're like, yeah, he hasn't had great numbers here, but what he does is he takes the tougher defensive assignments. He will go crash the boards, and then he will do anything else that is needed to help free up and get even more opportunities for Giannis and Lillard, right? So we saw him with the Wizards, right? He was kind of the focal point of that clown show, yet completely fallen off the shelf for DFS purposes. I mean, he barely cracks 30 fantasy points a game. I think he's done it once in like his last 6 or 7 outings, and I think he has won 40 fantasy point games since he's joined Milwaukee, and that might even be one that was in the upper 30s. And I think he's played 17 games with them, something along those lines. So I found that kind of interesting to read, in that he's doing exactly what they want him to do, even with Bobby Portis out, Matt. So for those of you, I mean, I'm sure everybody's kind of put it together. Don't play Kuzma. Kuzma's not doing bad. He's doing exactly what they brought him in to do: get younger and help take some of the pressure off the old guys. Whereas Middleton couldn't play all the minutes and was having troubles on back-to-backs. So they traded one of the key guys on the franchise, or a popular guy who'd been there for a decade, for Kuzma. So food for thought. I don't want to play Kuzma, but now we at least know why and what they're trying to do with him. So we should not have fantasy expectations of him cresting into the 30s very often down the stretch. Now, when they tighten up minutes in the playoffs, well, maybe we get there. But for now, doesn't seem to be that's going to be the case. All righty, let's see what else we have, because we have 20 minutes until lock. I said I would talk about the super chats that we were getting, so I will get those. But in the meantime, I do want to mention that we have the, of course, Stokastic link join promotion here. This is if you sign up through any of these operators here, if you haven't joined them yet, come in through our link, follow the instructions on the screen, and you will get 30 days of your choice. You can either get OddsShopper, or you can get 30 days of Stokastic single sims, meaning you can get NBA, or you could get MLB, or you could get MMA, etc. So those, of course, are like gold, because I am guessing a lot of you are not members yet at Fanatics, or you are not yet members at Better or Rebet, or et cetera, et cetera. Some of these here, you get, not only do you get their sign-up promotion. But if you come in through our link below, sign up, and then take screenshots of your welcome email and your first settled bet or pick'em card, email that to support@stokastic.com and tell us which sport you would like to get your single sims package in, and that will happen for you. All righty, let's see. I just crashed Yahoo because the RAM is crapping out on my computer because I have too many things going up. Here's the good question. Is anybody playing Shed today? Are you playing Shed?
I'm not, and I'm trying to get off all my AJ Lawson now for Jalen Wilson.
Okay. We have 19 minutes to do so. Let me go look at our super chats here. So we have, oh my gosh, we have quite a few. So let's see. Del Toro would like to know the FanDuel GPP plays by position. Sure. Let's refresh this and let's go to FanDuel. And I'm just in the data hub here. It's presents nicely. You can quickly see the leverage, but this is like the same dashboard that is used to create our lineups using the simulator. So we need to update that because Ira Williams is not playing. So did I get that updated? Oh, I'm guessing there are still, he's at 0 minutes. So let me think of how I want to do this. We ran into this yesterday. Filter minutes. Let's do minutes. I don't want anybody playing less than 20 minutes. That should clean things up for us. Okay, so what are we looking at? Let's see. Dyson Daniels looks good on DraftKings, but you asked for FanDuel. So let's get over to those. Minutes. All righty. So Akbaji coming in at 4,400. He is an intriguing option. Rolling the dice a little bit there. They're not going to, bring him back too quickly. I think that 30 minutes might be a little bit aggressive there, seeing what we've done with Toronto. So I'd probably keep him out. But I think Dyson Daniels is a good play. Matt mentioned that he liked Cason Wallace. I think that he's also a good play. And then newly emerging option Jalen Wilson is also a good play. I mentioned I liked Obdia. I also like Chet Holmgren. If you're looking to get your raw points, you're going to be holding hands with the field. 60% of the people are going to have Shea. Nothing wrong with that. He leads the league in scoring. He is second in steals. He is 15th in assists. He is a borderline MVP option here. So, no shame on getting him in your lineups. Giannis would be your other guy for the raw points. He's coming in 44% of the lineups. Your differentiation play, I think, would be Anthony Edwards. So, no, he is actually not. He is over. We're running out of places to spend money. That's the challenge. But Anthony Edwards has a little less popularity than those guys. So that could be a pivot for you as well. Let's see. What else do we have? Do top cash plays on DraftKings. Sure, we can do that. Let's take a peek. We'll fit this over to DraftKings. Now, usually in cash games, you want to look at who the most popular plays are. That's going to be where you build your defense. So Obdia, Wilson. I'm iffy on Claxton. I think there are other centers like Klingon that you can go to. I think Cameron Johnson is acceptable. I think Anthony Edwards is reasonable. I would try to get in either I would try to get in Obdia or Giannis as your core building blocks. So as we mentioned, Obdia number 1, but Giannis would be number 2, and then your number 3 would be Gilgeous-Alexander. I think we're going to find a little bit better value or other pivot potential options at that point guard spot. So that would be one way to find a little bit of differentiation in your DraftKings lineups.
I'm with you. I'm not like fully sold on Claxton. My only counter to that would be he's just too cheap. Like he's cheaper now than he's been like all season. And there's no reason for that. And he's in a good spot. So I do like Klingon more, but NBA is a lot about projections. It's hard to get away from Claxton totally at that price.
And you could actually play both of them in your lineup,
for
right?
sure.
Just burn
I'm
your
like,
utility.
I'm kind of just justifying it to myself because I'm leery about it also.
But walking it through, no Clowney, no Capella on the other side. So one less person he can, foul. Okongwu doesn't play, he plays different style than Capella, but I think he draws less fouls from opposing centers. So you've got that. And then it's Day'Ron Sharpe, who's his backup. And for Sharpe to really get more than 18 minutes, it's going to need to be foul trouble for Claxton, who is someone that, that they want to look to continue to develop, and especially with Clowney out. So that's kind of your path for him there. I was just kind of looking for a pivot, but if you want to play both those guys, zero issue at all. And then you're kind of getting the best of both worlds from that standpoint. You put in, Wilson, and then, Kaysen, Wallace, and two of the top three projected point people, and then that's kind of your foundational setup for your DraftKings cash games. We have a 2v2 from Sam Van Dam. This is DraftKings, Shea and Claxton, or Giannis and Klingon. So we just sort of made the argument that Klingon and Claxton, solid plays. How would you like to parse out Shea and Giannis going head-to-head in that late-night hammer?
I like Giannis more. What was the exact 2v2?
Giannis and Klingon, or Shea and Claxton?
I mean, for me, it's Giannis and Klingon because I slightly prefer Giannis to Shea, and I slightly prefer Klingon to Claxton. But it's damn close. I mean, projection-wise, it's like within a point of each other. So it's a go with your gut type of call.
All right. Matt spoke for only 2 minutes total on this show. I think Matt got all his stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it usually goes. EMAC is the talker, and I just get straight to the point. I will say, like, the Zaire Williams news that he is out really makes Brooklyn a lot more appealing. So they're already in a good spot. I talked about it. I'm getting off of all my AJ Lawson. I'm playing Jalen Wilson. Not that he's like some fantasy superstar, but he's 3,200. Lawson was like 4,700. I'm making that swap and making upgrades elsewhere. So Brooklyn now really, really appealing to me. Keon Johnson, Cam Johnson, Claxton, Jalen Wilson. Those four guys for me.
All right. Malakar is asking, is Claxton in play as a cheap center? Pardon me, is Castleton? I wouldn't want to risk anything with Toronto. I'm voting no on that. And do you have thoughts on that? And then how do you feel about Gobert or Claxton? That's Castleton for minutes, and then Gobert or Claxton.
I like Claxton more than Gobert, but not by a ton. I do like Gobert. I think he's a really intriguing pivot in tournaments. I'm playing some Gobert. If I had 6K, I probably would play Gobert over Claxton. I wouldn't leave the salary because even though Claxton projects a little bit better, Gobert is so much lower owned that I would rather play him. So I'm playing some Claxton, I'm playing some Gobert, and I'm playing a lot of Klingon.
All right. They want your nuke of the night. Do you need a minute to think about it? Because I believe I have a clip here. All right, that was Eric Lindquist quickly getting his balls blown off.
I'm playing a guy who was good to me last night that is still projected to be low owned tonight. Kaysen Wallace, man. He's been good to me all year, like hovering around 4K. He's productive. I like the spot, low ownership, good price tag. Like, he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. There are a lot of good guard plays tonight, but he's like the cheapest, one of the cheapest ones. I really feel comfortable just like locking. I'm playing a lot of Kaysen Wallace here.
All right. Mine is going to be Clingan, or pardon me, Chet Holmgren. Easy peasy.
I like that call.
I'm feeling good about that one. All right, we have 9 minutes until lock. Let me see if I can get my lineups together here because I would like to play tonight and not take zeros. I probably should have thought about that before. But what I'm doing is I'm playing on FanDuel, running my lineups here. I'm playing in the nickel, the quarter, and then a bunch of the 3 max and single entries, some leagues, and some quints. So my goal is to, kind of sprinkle things in. I wish more people played in those 100-man leagues. They do in football, but I think those are the best kept secret on FanDuel. So it's disappointing that people don't join enough of those. All right, got that up. So let's see what happens here. What's going to transpire today? Let me get the quick favorites here. So we got 100. What do we got here? So let's look at some of our filters here. So can't do team or lineup, but what I wanted to do is make sure I don't have too many Toronto guys. So Tyrese Martin is coming in at 80%. I've got Giannis at about 50, Keon Johnson about 50, Abdia 50. Okay. Someone was asking, what do you feel about Trenton Watford? I like him a lot. He's kind of a do-everything player here. So looks like I'm matching the field at 45%. We don't know I don't think we have news on Wiggins yet, but there will be pivots available later in the slate if I need to get away from him. But so I'm okay with all of these. So I'm not going to cap anybody, not going to kill anybody either, but I may boost a few folks here. So I said I like Chet Holmgren. Let's give him a 20% boost. I think Giannis needs a little boost. And let's go with Shea for above the field. I want to make sure I have enough Case and Wallace. Oop, I'm already double the field. I'm fine with that. Who is the guy you liked? Wilson?
Yeah, I do like Wilson a lot now.
I'm not getting Wilson much, so let's pump him
You're
up.
not?
No, but if I bump him up, what that should do is that should take out some of the Wiggins, which I'm okay with playing the guy early because I think there's a decent chance Wiggins is out tonight with the back-to-back illness. But let's see what that did. So we can come back over here. We can see that Martin went down a little bit. Shea went up significantly. He's in 2/3 of my lineups. Looks like I'm kind of matching the field. I'm now making a stand on Jalen Wilson. 44% Cam Johnson. Aaron Wiggins still a lot. I think that's a bit much. So I'm going to go 30% with Wiggins. With the cap there. Let's see. And I need to make sure I get more obvious. So let's hit that. Let's unfavorite, refavorite, and we're going to go look at Obdia. I'm going to give him a little boost, and then I'm going to give Chet 3x. I think I'm comfortable with that. But let's give him one more just because salt to taste. This is like a chef in the kitchen. So that gets me. I'm good with that. All right. I'm going to export that, and we'll see if there are other questions.
The one guy I am lower on is Tyrese Martin. So he's just bumped up in the tools. I'm not changing my stuff. He's like the odd man out for me. I'd rather play Keon Johnson than him. Keon Johnson projects for slightly better, but the tools prefer Tyrese Martin. So do with that what you will.
Well, I am uploading what I have, so that's what I would do. Oh, I mucked that up. Back over here. Let me hit save. Okay, that should do it. Upload. $342 lineups in the process of uploading. hit refresh just to make sure that I'm not running my single lineup because I'm not as good on FanDuel as I am on DraftKings. Look at that. There we go. So I'm going to close that out because I got what I wanted. Hopefully there's no last minute news, but let's see what we've got for questions. What about Gary Trent if Kuzma is out? So actually that's a question. So let's look at this. So I'm going to show you guys kind of what I look at. So I like to look at Basketball Reference because that's a good, quick way to see the game log. And it's also a good way to see when players have started, when they've sat, why they sat. It'll tell you if they're inactive. Sometimes you have to check because sometimes it'll say that it was a coach's decision. Sometimes it'll say the injury, but it's easy to quickly look and see. So we can see he has played pretty steady rotation there. Went from 20 minutes in games 3 and 4 ago to 23 and a half in the last 2 games. I would suspect he gets a bump a little bit if Kuzma is out. I don't think his role is going to change dramatically because what Kuzma is doing is he's really guarding tougher opposing players. So I think Tayshaun Prince may have to assume some of those. Tarian Prince. Let's a flashback to Tayshaun Prince. Tarian Prince, no relation. Gets maybe a little bit more of those duties. But I think Trent is an interesting guy off the bench for those 3-point shots and for the volume. So you can see he's taken 4, 6, 9, and 6 in his last 3 games. So I think that's kind of interesting.
I'll just comment on that real quick. I mean, for me, I always like Gary Trent, but like for me, it's more about just there are other better plays on this slate. So
sure,
I can't get there because even if Kuzma's out, he doesn't look better than all the guys from Portland, Brooklyn we talked about. He is cheap, but I just don't think he looks better than even like Jalen Wilson. So yeah, that's how I feel. I feel similarly to you.
So so now I've got Kuzma up. So this is a fun thing. You see how I highlighted that? I held down shift and highlighted the games I wanted. It'll then give you an average. We can see over the last 7 games, Kuzma's playing 32 minutes. He's only taking 10 field goal attempts per game. When you look at somebody being out, what is their role? What is being replaced? Minutes, yes, but he's not part of their offense, right? I talked earlier about that great long form ESPN article that was sort of saying, hey, we're bringing him in as a role player to be the jack of all trades, focus on defense, focus on rebounding, help keep Giannis and Lillard and doing offensive stuff. That's what he's doing. So if we're replacing that, it's not going to be with Gary Trent.
Here's a good one for you, though. Who do you like more on this slate? Scoot Henderson or Dante DiVincenzo?
Oh, I'm going to say Scoot. So Scoot is infuriating. Like when you go look at him real quick, look at how bad his shooting percentage is. So if we hit here's this game stretch.
This is such a good spot for like him to muck it up though.
Yeah, 43%. He's 38% on his 3-pointers, but he's heavily scoring dependent, right? He's averaging 7.5 rebounds plus assists, but 15 points. I lean that way a little bit, where we got DiVincenzo. If you're looking at him, you need to remember his team has a 14-point advantage. They are at home, and what exactly is he going to need to do? So let's look at his last 5 games, since that should be when he was back to full strength. And that's the one downside of sometimes when you get these pop-up ads, the averages don't show quickly enough. DiVincenzo is the safer play, but I think his minutes potentially could be capped, and his offensive opportunities could be capped. If we just eyeball this quickly, he's averaging 10 attempts per game over the last 5. So that's going to be frozen, and we are at lock. But those are the fun things we look at there. So, all righty, Matt, we got a little bit of fun there for everybody to check things out. We had many ways where you guys can save money with Stokastic. You can get the 7 free days. Anybody can get the 7 free days for Portfolio EV. And then, of course, sign up with any of our partners here, and you can get a free month of Sims or a free month of Portfolio EV just for clicking on our link. You still get their bonuses, and then you get the bonus at the end. Hit that like button on the way out. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Close to 2,000 people. That's awesome for a Sunday. I know when March Madness is underway, we'll lose a few hundred people, but we're still going to be here as best we can. So hit that like button. It helps us a lot. But you guys can follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMACDFS. And of course, it is Stokastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.